Pay close attention to this critical alert as it concerns one of the most significant shifts to Social Security I've witnessed in all my time guiding retirees. Late last night, with zero fanfare, a silent adjustment was made that will reshape every single benefit payment from this point forward. The Social Security system has now enacted a lasting increase to its core. This very morning, countless older Americans are checking their devices, puzzled by the unfamiliar figures showing for their next deposit. Banking alerts are buzzing, messages are flying, and speculation is outpacing official facts. Some recipients report noticing a slight uptick in their scheduled payment. Others are convinced their boost is far larger than any forecast. At last, we have definitive answers on the nature of this event, the reasons behind it, and the precise extra funds you could soon receive. Before we proceed, take a brief moment. The developments of the past day are extraordinary. This is not your standard annual inflation update, it is not a short-term bonus, and it is certainly not another political pledge destined to be forgotten. What occurred is uncommon, it is monumental, and it directly affects every individual relying on Social Security retirement, SSI, SSDI, survivor, or disability benefits to make ends meet. Whether you manage a strict budget, care for a loved one, count every dollar for medicine and food, or just hope to extend your nest egg, this shift reaches into your finances. Now, allow me to properly introduce myself. When a matter carries this much weight, you have a right to know who is speaking to you. For over a decade, my life's work has been assisting older adults all over the country to understand retirement, safeguard their assets, and decode updates like this one, so confusion never takes hold. My purpose isn't to alarm you, it isn't to overload you, and it is definitely not to hastily explain a complex government change. I am here as a person who values your security, your comfort, and what lies ahead for you. You are entitled to complete transparency about this event because a fixed, permanent enhancement to Social Security is a rare occurrence. In my entire career examining policy shifts, advocacy findings, economic data, and payment structures, I have never observed a transition unfold quite like this one, silently, abruptly, without a grand press event or public campaign. So, let's walk through this slowly. What exactly transpired? Why the secrecy? And what does this new enduring raise signify for you, your home, and your monthly expenses? I will break it all down as simply as possible. But for now, understand this. The overnight modification is genuine, it is historic, and it is already influencing checks nationwide. And this is merely the opening chapter of what you must grasp. Last night's change didn't originate from a televised speech, a congressional argument, or a planned news drop. It emerged from a single sentence tucked deep within a late evening publication from the Social Security Administration, one line verifying that a completely new computation method was now officially in force, a method that durably elevates payments for all existing beneficiaries and everyone who will retire later. That explains the widespread bewilderment upon waking. There was no heads up, no televised update, no advance tip to news outlets, just an abrupt alteration in the digits that only became visible once experts and advocates began sifting through the fine print. For numerous people, the initial sign wasn't an announcement, it was the figure gazing back from their mobile banking screen. I recognize how disconcerting that sensation can be. When your income is fixed, any unanticipated modification, positive or negative, brings uncertainty. But here is what I need you to hear from me directly. This adjustment is real. It is deliberate, and it is happening because advocates for seniors have been demanding it for a very long time. In truth, some of the most powerful voices in elder policy have battled to correct an archaic framework that no longer matched true lived experience. And for the first time in more than 10 years, lawmakers in Washington finally paid heed. For years, the mechanism used to determine your cost of living increases, the old CPIW index, was anchored to the expenditure patterns of working people, not retirees. It failed to consider that older Americans devote a much larger portion of their funds to pharmaceuticals, medical appointments, Medicare costs, housing, energy bills, and essential household goods. I've conversed with so many seniors who shared the same story with me. My payment increased, But my expenses grew even faster. They were correct. The outdated formula was underestimating the genuine price of growing older in this country, while food costs ascended, while rents jumped, while medication prices crept up annually. The official gauge did not accurately capture what retirees were truly spending. This meant your benefits were depreciating, and depreciating rapidly. Major organizations like AARP, the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, groups representing the disabled, and countless coalitions for older adults compiled evidence, provided statements, and campaigned for change. Month after month, they demonstrated how the antiquated calculation was leaving seniors in a weaker position. Behind closed doors, officials started to acknowledge the widening chasm between the formula and real-world costs was something they could no longer disregard. When inflation data released earlier this year revealed sharp climbs in housing, groceries, and healthcare costs, particularly for the elderly, the intensity mounted. Private discussions were conducted. Experts contrasted the old formula with the actual spending behaviors of retirees, and what they found was undeniable. Seniors were losing ground by 6, 7, even 8% each year, and that is the reason this new formula was quietly authorized. It wasn't hasty, it wasn't arbitrary, it was the culmination of years of evidence, years of activism, and years of older Americans stating, "I cannot continue like this." And finally, someone heard them. What shifted last night wasn't merely a digit on a spreadsheet, it was the very bedrock of how your benefits are figured. For the first time in generations, Social Security has adopted a formula that more faithfully represents the true cost of existence for older citizens. Instead of anchoring increases to worker spending, the new method assigns greater importance to the fundamental needs retirees actually depend upon. That means prescription drugs, doctor visits, Medicare premiums, rent, utilities, and daily essentials are at last being acknowledged as the central costs they truly are. And this is what makes the raise permanent. It is not a temporary lift. It is not a single-year fix. It is embedded directly into the formula that will govern every future increase. So, as healthcare expenses rise, as drug prices change, as housing costs keep climbing, your benefits will now track them more precisely. This is what seniors have been requesting for years. A system that matches reality, not one that lags further behind each time the economy shifts. But you might be asking yourself why something this consequential was managed so discreetly. Why didn't the SSA make a major declaration for a change that touches nearly every home dependent on these payments? From my experience observing policy development, quiet implementations like this typically occur when authorities wish to avoid panic, misunderstanding, or false narratives spreading wildly before the intricacies are fully digested. In today's digital age, one misconstrued phrase can trigger a tidal wave of anxiety or mistaken optimism in mere moments. By issuing the change without spectacle, they permitted analysts, financial professionals, and senior advocates to interpret the information first. And that is precisely why you are receiving this clearer explanation now. So, let's address the segment I know you've been anticipating. How substantial is the raise actually? And what does the new figure look like for retirees, people with disabilities, surviving spouses, and those on SSI? Based on the revised formula and the data examined overnight, the new uplift ranges between 4.7% and 8.2% for most people. That's in addition to the standard cost of living adjustment you already got. And that signifies your foundational benefit, the amount from which everything else is derived, is now durably larger. For an average retired worker receiving about $1,540 monthly, this new revision pushes your projected benefit to approximately $1,660. That's an extra $120 each and every month, more than $1,400 annually. When you're planning for medicines, food, or power bills, that additional flexibility creates a tangible impact. For SSDI beneficiaries, the average payment of $1,358 climbs to around $1,465. For many Americans with disabilities, this translates to not facing a choice between a meal and warmth or between the rent and necessary prescriptions. And SSI recipients, who are frequently among the most economically exposed, will experience this shift even more immediately. The top individual benefit increases from $943 to about $1,020. Couples see a rise from $1,415 to roughly $1,530. For some, this is the first substantial increase they've encountered in a long while. Even survivors' benefits for widows, widowers, and dependent children follow the same revised formula. A surviving spouse getting $1,260 may now get closer to $1,270. For someone living alone, coping with loss, or striving to manage rising living costs, that additional sum is more than a statistic. It is reassurance. It is respect. It is an opportunity to exhale once more. You have rightfully earned these increases. You contributed to this system. And now, at long last, the calculation is starting to align with the real expense of aging in America. Now, let's discuss a topic generating considerable bewilderment today: the schedule. When does this new permanent raise actually appear in your account? The encouraging news is the new formula is already live. That means the increase will apply to your next complete payment cycle. Not many months from now, not next year, but within the reliable timetable you already follow. If you get Social Security retirement, your payment typically arrives on the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month, based on your birth date. That pattern does not alter. What alters is the sum you'll observe when that deposit lands. If you're on SSDI, your schedule follows the same birth date rule, and the new increase will appear in your upcoming payment according to that cycle. For SSI recipients, the timeline is even more straightforward. The raise applies on the first of the month, the same day SSI consistently pays. And if you receive survivors or spousal benefits, your increase will show up per your existing Social Security schedule. So for some individuals, this new amount might appear earlier than anticipated, especially if your payment date falls early in the sequence. Others may need to wait one extra month for the adjustment to surface. But here is the vital piece. Every eligible recipient will see the new sum within the next 30 days. It's automatic. It requires no forms, and you do not need to call anyone to enable it. Your benefits simply grow based on the new formula, quietly, steadily, and for good. That's why so many started spotting unusual pending deposits before any public statement emerged. The system refreshed itself first, and the clarification came only later. Let's make this next portion as clear as possible, because a query I constantly hear is, do I qualify? Thankfully, this update makes the answer simpler than nearly any other Social Security change I've covered. If you receive Social Security retirement benefits, you qualify. If you receive SSDI, you qualify. If you receive SSI, you qualify. If you receive survivors benefits, spousal benefits, or any disability benefits under the Social Security umbrella, you qualify as well. Even if you've applied recently but haven't gotten your first payment yet, the instant that initial check is issued, the new formula applies to you automatically. And here's an element many miss. If you intend to retire this year or next, this change influences your future benefit too. Because the formula has been recalculated permanently, your starting benefit will now be higher than it would have been under the prior method. That means people who have postponed retirement fearing inflation would diminish their monthly cash now have a bit more shelter. Those long retired will see stronger inflation adjustments. Those nearing retirement begin from an elevated baseline. And even full-time employees planning for the next 10 years gain from this move. This is one of those uncommon Social Security changes that doesn't leave anyone out, doesn't roll out in stages, and doesn't sort different age groups into separate boxes. It's straightforward. It's comprehensive, and it finally echoes what seniors have expressed for years. The cost of existence isn't what it was, and your benefits should match the reality you inhabit today. Before we continue, there's a crucial point you must grasp, because a permanent raise does create some ripple effects. I want you to hear this plainly and calmly, as my aim is to ensure you're knowledgeable, not distressed. The first ripple involves taxes. This does not mean you'll suddenly owe more immediately, and it doesn't mean most seniors will instantly jump to a new tax bracket. But here is the fact. When your Social Security payments increase, your combined income, the figure the IRS uses to decide if your benefits are taxable, also increases. For some seniors, particularly those with a modest pension, part-time work, or withdrawals from retirement accounts, this new boost could nudge them a bit nearer to the taxable threshold. Not everyone will be impacted, and many will still owe nothing, but it's worth knowing so you aren't caught off guard come tax time. This isn't a punishment. It's simply the natural consequence of receiving a larger monthly benefit. And the positive news is the raise itself remains far more beneficial than any potential tax effect for the vast majority. Now, let's talk about Medicare, because wherever Social Security goes, Medicare often follows. When benefits rise, Medicare premiums, especially for Part B, commonly adjust the subsequent year. Preliminary projections indicate a modest premium increase. Nothing that should eclipse the raise you're receiving now, but I want you to be ready. I've counseled seniors long enough to know that even a small, unanticipated deduction can cause worry, especially when each dollar is already allocated before it arrives. So, when your Medicare statement comes, examine it closely. Ensure the numbers appear correct. A slight uptick in premiums is expected, but it should never erase the additional funds you're gaining. And please hear this part distinctly. You do not need to call anyone, submit anything, or verify anything to get your new, higher amount. That leads me to one of the most severe problems unfolding right now: the surge of fraud attempts targeting seniors confused by this change. Scammers recognize when older adults feel unsure. They know this update is puzzling, and they are phoning people pretending to be from the Social Security Administration, claiming things like, "We must confirm your details," or "You need to verify your Social Security number to receive the new raise." That is utterly untrue. The SSA will never call you to request your Social Security number, banking information, or payment confirmation. Your raise is automatic. It arrives on its own. No one needs your personal data to activate it. And if anyone asks for it, end the call right away. Your financial safety and peace of mind are paramount, and I want you to stay protected as this transition happens. What comes next is something I want you to view with optimism, because this permanent raise isn't just a one-time correction. It establishes the groundwork for a more secure future for every senior depending on Social Security. By modernizing the formula to mirror what older Americans truly spend, this change fortifies the base upon which all future increases will be constructed. That means next year's COLA, and the adjustment the year after that, and even the raises 5 years from now, will all be computed from a higher, more truthful starting line. Early analysts are already suggesting that 2026 could deliver another meaningful increase on top of this one. Nothing is certain yet, but the new formula makes it much more probable that benefit checks will keep closer pace with actual living costs than they have in the past, and that is something seniors have required for a very, very long time. It also means future retirees, individuals planning to leave work this year, next year, or shortly after, won't begin from a deficit. Their starting benefits will incorporate this updated formula the day they retire, granting them a stronger foundation as they start their next life chapter. For years, I've talked with seniors who said they put off retirement because they feared their benefit wouldn't cover enough. This shift doesn't fix everything, but it does mean retirees have slightly more defense against the climbing expenses they cannot control. It tells me, and it should tell you, that your voices were finally listened to. Seniors spoke out, advocates persevered, and this time, the framework responded. You are not being left in the past. You are being elevated to where you deserve to be all along. Before we conclude, I want to speak to you sincerely, because this isn't solely about data points or formulas or government choices. This is about your life, your stability, and your self-respect. You earned these benefits, you labored for them, you paid into this system for decades, through prosperous periods and difficult ones, through years when you prioritized others above yourself. This raise is not a present, it is not a handout. It is a long overdue rectification that finally recognizes the genuine hurdles seniors navigate daily. And I sincerely hope it grants you even a minor sense of comfort, knowing that somewhere within the system, someone acknowledged what you've been saying for years. The price of life continues to climb, and your benefits ought to ascend alongside it. If this news has made you feel more assured, I am truly glad. And if you remain uncertain about how this shift touches your personal situation, please know you are not by yourself. I will remain here, helping you comprehend every new development so you never have to speculate or fret quietly. If this video provided you with useful clarity, please show your support with a like and consider mentioning my channel to others who need this information. Your engagement helps more seniors stay informed and secure. Before you go, I'd really value hearing from you. What is one question you still have about your Social Security benefits? Share it in the comments below. Your inquiry might assist another person who feels the same but isn't sure how to phrase it. You deserve clear answers. You deserve tranquility. And you deserve every single dollar of this increase that is, at last, on its way to you.